archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Art is a reshaping of reality by man to present it in an understandable way. As the artist recreates the world around him, it is shaped by how he sees it and what he believes in. The Indian artist did not attempt to depict only the material reality around him. He wished to share the complete experience of the moment, not just the photographic presentation of the shapes around him. Beauty for the Indian artist has been a reflection of the glory of God. In fact, for the ancient artist, the experience of beauty, the ecstasy on seeing nature or art which is truly beautiful, has been considered as akin to Brahmanand or the final bliss. Join us on this journey into the heart of the Indian tradition of painting. Come with us to the gorge of the Vaghora river, where Ajanta was created, to the courts of the Mughals and the Deccani Sultans. Journey with us through the deserts of Rajasthan and the icy lands of Ladakh and Lahaul Spiti. In the verdant south and in the gentle hills of the north, experience the compassionate view of life that is enshrined in Indian painting.
In ancient India, art was an integral part of life. It was deeply associated with philosophy and religion. Artistic representation was essential for prayer and meditation. The worshipper was supposed to imbibe the qualities of the deity by looking upon the true representation of the aspects personified in that deity. In fact, the philosophy of aesthetics had a fundamental and important place in the religious life of India. The aesthetic experience was believed to be akin to Brahmanand, or the final bliss of enlightenment.
One of the most fruitful and enjoyable studies is that of the movement of ideas across the barriers of natural boundaries and over the divisions of mountains and oceans. Cultural and artistic ideas have a life of their own, and their ready acceptance by the peoples of different regions highlights the universal nature of human experience and expression.
In ancient times, the philosophical ideas of Hinduism and Buddhism spread from India to practically every corner of Asia. As art was an integral part of life and religion, the concepts of Indian art spread far and wide, along with the philosophy. Ideals were laid down for living life in the world and beyond. These were conveyed and reiterated constantly through paintings and sculpture. In ancient times, India was a great trading nation. By the beginning of the Christian era, there was considerable maritime trade between India and the rest of South and Southeast Asia. This resulted in a great spread of Indian culture, which was welcomed with open arms throughout the region. In the 3rd century BC, Emperor Ashok's daughter Sanghamitra brought Buddhism to Sri Lanka. The coming of Buddhism to Sri Lanka was one of the great transforming influences in the history of Asia. In centuries to come, Sri Lanka became the center of the earliest form of Buddhism, known as Theravada Buddhism. In the meantime, in India, further philosophies of Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism were developed and became popular. Austere and simple, the Theravada path asks of its followers a sense of humility and simplicity. The earliest paintings of Sri Lanka are found in a cave high atop the massive Sigriya rock. The 5th century paintings of Sigriya, in their graceful lines and deeply thoughtful expressions, carry forward the traditions of art born at Ajanta. It is wonderful to see the close similarity of these paintings with the Ajanta paintings. The painter's gentle touch shows us that his eyes are filled with sympathy and compassion for humankind. These paintings come as a balm, and through their lilting grace remind us that there is an end to the sorrow of the world. These paintings carry forward the tradition of Apsaras, celestial beings who carry offerings of flowers for deities and venerable beings. In the 12th century, the Chola Empire covered both South India and parts of Sri Lanka. The great blossoming of paintings seen in the Brihadishwar temple at Thanjavur is closely reflected in marvelous paintings in Sri Lanka. The 12th century mural paintings at Polonaruva portray the Buddhist Jatak tales. These present a marvelous confluence of the early gentle traditions coming from Ajanta and a new sense of grandeur which comes into painting under the imperial Pallavas and Cholas. The traditions coming from India form a life of their own in Sri Lanka. We see a continuation of the art which is similar to its Indian roots, seen in Ajanta and Brihadishwar. Yet it is a unique and beautiful blending of these styles which makes this art distinctly Sri Lankan. Sri Lanka has preserved and nurtured the ancient tradition of making cherished paintings deep in the heart of caves. The sanctity of the secluded interiors provides an atmosphere of peace, far from the clamor of the material world. The holy caves at Dambula have paintings from early times till the 18th century. Here we see glimpses of the shared Theravada Buddhist traditions of art of Sri Lanka and the countries of Southeast Asia. The austere form of Theravada Buddhism considers art for the sake of beauty itself to be a sensory pleasure and an indulgence. Therefore, Theravada art conveys the religious message in a simple and direct manner. The paintings are more two-dimensional and stylized. Myanmar was a great crucible of Buddhist influences and art which came to it over the centuries. At the end of the first millennium, Myanmar had a deep and direct relationship with the center of Buddhist philosophy at Bodh Gaya in India. In fact, in the 11th and 12th centuries, the kings of Myanmar made replicas of the Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya at their own capital of Bagan. Simultaneously, in the 11th century, King Anirudh of Myanmar declared Theravada Buddhism to be the state religion. To proclaim his deep reverence, he made thousands of pagodas at Bagan.
Here in Bagan, literally thousands of pagodas dot the landscape, representing the faith of the people. These have inside them paintings from the 11th century to the 18th, reflecting Pan-Asian traditions.
At the beginning of the second millennium, Bagan became a sanctified place with great art, whose inspirations came both from Eastern India and from Sri Lanka, which was by then the heart of Theravada Buddhism in Asia. With the fall of Buddhist centers in the plains of India, scholars and artists from India took refuge in the deeply religious sanctuary of Myanmar. Here a great confluence was created of the exquisite and refined art of the Pala kingdom and the simple reverence of Theravada Buddhism. The structures of the pagodas and the styles of the paintings have similarities with both the temples and art of Eastern India and of the Chola period in South India.
The artists from India, some of them settled here and they began opening a sort of a guild sort of thing, imparting their painting to the local artists. Or we have the record, you see, Myanmar Buddhist kings, all Myanmar kings are Buddhists. They sent envoys to India with the monks and accompanying artists and artisans. When they probably learnt the paintings there during their visit to India.
The paintings on the inner walls of these pagodas are some of the finest and gentlest paintings of the entire Buddhist tradition. The themes are those of the life of the Buddha and the Jataka stories of his previous lives. Queen Mahamaya is seen holding the branch of a sal tree as she gives birth to Lord Buddha. The grace and beauty of form of the Pala paintings of Eastern India are seen in these murals. We see the elephant Nallagiri bowing down in utmost devotion to the Lord. The paintings from the 16th century onwards that survive at Bagan show the transition to the styles of Theravada Buddhism. In this tradition, art which concentrates on the presentation of beauty is considered to be an indulgence. The images are more two-dimensional and linear, without the shading and volume of the earlier Mahayana art. Repetition is used to ingrain the religious message deep into the minds of the viewers, leaving no scope for ambiguity. In these later paintings of Myanmar, we find a style and conventions of painting which by then had become widespread in the Buddhist countries of Southeast Asia. By this time, owing to foreign invasions, the vital inspiration of Buddhist and Hindu art from the plains of India had died out.
Many things may have changed after religious culture from India arrived in the 7th century. The 7th century is the great time for this region of Southeast Asia, not only Thailand. A painting should have begun at the time when the religious arrived from India.
From early times, Thailand received Buddhist influences from Sri Lanka and Myanmar. These met Brahminical traditions from contact with neighboring Cambodia and also from the culture brought by seafaring trade with India. The culture of Thailand developed as a marvelous synthesis of the Hindu and Buddhist influences coming from many sources. The religion followed by the Thai people is Buddhism, and one of the strongest cultural traditions is that of the Ramayana. Interestingly, the Ramayana, or the Ramakien as it is known in Thailand, is not seen as a religious legend, but as a great literary epic. Thailand has had a flourishing tradition of mural paintings on Buddhist themes and on the stories of the Ramayana. The great temple of the Emerald Buddha in Bangkok represents the happy coexistence of Buddhist and Hindu traditions. The temple is dedicated to the Buddha, and it has many walls which are elaborately painted with scenes from the Ramayana. The murals of Thailand are very stylized and closely related with the dance dramas of the land. The costumes, crowns and jewelry are typical of Thailand. The gentle expressions and graceful gestures are deeply rooted in the tradition of compassion, which is found everywhere in the best of Hindu and Buddhist art. Ayutthaya was one of the great capitals in Southeast Asia in the 14th century. The temples or wats in Ayutthaya have some of the earliest remnants of Thai mural paintings. After the period of Ayutthaya, we see fine mural paintings at the Budhai Sawan Chapel in Bangkok. These paintings depict many scenes from the life of the Buddha and a wide panorama of ethereal beings and earthly worshippers. These paintings follow distinct styles in the depiction of different classes of figures. Divine, mythological, and royal persons are depicted in the classic style, with its graceful and sinuous lines. Their expressions are gentle and compassionate, and they are garbed in traditional Thai finery. In Thai mural paintings, the artist seems to have the most freedom in depicting common earthly beings. We see common men with expressions that border on caricature and in postures that are often humorous. The doors have depictions of Dwarpals or guardian deities. The island of Bali in Indonesia takes its name from a powerful figure in the Hindu epic Ramayana. Since early times, Hindu and Buddhist influences came to the islands of Indonesia. When Islam gained prominence in Java and Sumatra after the 15th century, Bali became the main center of Hindu and Buddhist culture and art. Kalinga, on the coast of Orissa, had a flourishing trade with the island of Bali. Till today, on the coast of Orissa, the Bali Yatra commemorates the journey to Bali in days gone by. We see in the traditions of the paintings of Bali very close reflections of the palm leaf manuscript illustrations of Orissa. The paintings of Bali are stylized with sharply angular faces and animated gestures. Enacted on the ceiling of the Katha temple in Bali, we see the story of the Ramayana, the battle between good and evil.
When Buddhism traveled along the Silk Road from India, it went to China from Central Asia. Around the Taklaman Desert, there are a string of oases, which is the source of life in this desert, which is source of life for the merchants of the Silk Road. And one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen on this journey inside China is the paintings in Kuzhou. And in this case, you see, of course, the images of Buddha, and with depiction of the typical Jataka stories. Both the images of the god of the Buddha, and particularly the bodhisattvas, and the apsaras, and dancers and singers, are like what we saw on the Indian temples.
Buddhism and its art was accepted wholeheartedly all over Central Asia and China. From here, the message of the Buddha traveled further to Korea and Japan. In the far east of Asia, Japan is the most distant land which received the influences of Buddhism and Hinduism, Sanskrit scriptures, and the art of the Indian subcontinent.
We Japanese Buddhist people are respect Indian ancient civilizations because Buddhism arrived in Japan AD 500 and Japanese people able to develop ancient Japanese civilization through Buddhism. So they adopted Indian painting, Indian structures, Indian philosophies.
And Buddhist painting is influenced from India. Maybe when you go to the Horyuji temple, you can find out many wall painting. Maybe some scholars said this painting influence from the India, especially Ajanta. Shinto god is invisible, but Buddhist god is visible. That's why the Buddhism came to Japan. Buddhists had a very big influence to the artist. Maybe artist is very happy to get the Buddhism in Japan because they can make it. The real sculpture and the painting and everything because the God is visible.
The philosophy of aesthetics, which was developed in India, has been nurtured and perfected in Japan. More than any other in the world, the culture of Japan is deeply sensitive to the beauty of everything that is around us. The effect of peace and harmonious feeling that this appreciation of beauty brings to people is best understood in Japan. The temples and the paintings of Japan are the finest remaining blossoms of a great art and philosophy which once spanned the continent of Asia. The art of Asia has been informed by a deep vision of the eternal harmony of the world. It is this vision of life which shaped the grace and the forms of the paintings of Ajanta. The art travelled with its philosophy of compassion all across Asia to create a vision that shaped the culture of a whole continent.